Hello, thank you for joining BusinessOptix Thought Leadership Series. We are excited today to have Jim Sinur, a leading global analyst, join us to speak about managing key process and automation strategies. Jim has over 20 years experience with firms such as Gartner, as a contributor to Forbes, and has in-depth knowledge on areas such as digital transformation, Internet of Things, and the intelligent workplace. Jim, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to the commentary, and we will turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Carrie. I appreciate it. Today, we're going to talk about, what Carrie said. We're going to talk about managing key processes and automation strategies under the new normal. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what the new normal is going to be. And the new normal is emergence. In the past, your transactions or your processes ran in a pretty stable environment. Things weren't changing. And what we're moving to is a much more dynamic, complex, and changing environment where the goals and the outcomes are going to be changed. We saw this in the pandemic, that there was a significant amount of emergence. Well, we're going to see that in the business world too, maybe not that radical, but you can see what's happening in the world. We've got more geopolitical events, we have more natural disasters, we have changing needs from our customer base. So you have to pretend for now, and it'll become a reality later, that emergence is here to stay. We're also seeing a huge trend towards hyper automation, which says we need to bring together these digital technologies in pairings, triplets, and platforms that work together to help us get higher levels of automation to save the costs. I mean, we are in a recession right now, and we want to get out of it. And of course, there'll be pressure on outcomes and savings, etc. But at the same time, we need to differentiate our organization, or your particular organization, through customer journeys and journeys that adapt. And so under this new normal, there's going to be big and fast data that needs to be mined in a real-time fashion. And it's really what I call emergent data recognition. So you're going to see a lot of the things happen in the data. Now, when it came with the pandemic, we saw it happen in the models first, and then the data came later that we could match to. And we may be in that situation in business. So that's the backdrop to this presentation. So who's talking to you? What does he know? I always ask that. I'm going like, should I pay attention to this or not? So my background is I spent 25 years delivering some pretty cool systems and processes for some, what I would consider leading edge companies, Northwestern Mutual and American Express. They believed in technology, that technology would save them money, technology would give them a competitive advantage. At Northwestern, I worked on a smart underwriter workbench along with a number of traditional applications, bespoke apps. And in American Express, we worked on the world's largest model-driven first version of low code. And we were #1 in the world until mobile beat us, but that's okay. There were a lot of things that we did, worked with AI there, worked with process there, worked with low code. And so I was lucky enough to work at the kind of companies that were investing in technologies before they became, mainstream. I then switched to Gartner thinking that, well, look, I could learn some more and maybe jump back in as a CIO later, but I got hooked on the Gartner environment, where I was able to, contribute to Gartner in a couple of ways. One was I was involved with building the first hype cycle along with Jackie Fenn. Also came up with the first maturity model and helped build the business process management unit and did early low code and early RPA. So, but I'm more proud of the inquiries that I had and interfaces and networking I had with customers, where they came to me with real problems, real difficulties, and we tried to help them sort that through either, you know, the inquiry process or some referee processes where, you know, customers weren't getting along with a vendor and got to play referee. So that was the cool part. Today, I'm an independent under the heading of Flueresque, which is a name of the hybrid company that I have that is an art studio and also a digital consultant. So I'm a blogger, got about 650,000 blog hits on my blog, which is 7 years old. Contribute to Forbes. They just went through and had a purge of authors they wanted and didn't want. So I made the purge, which is cool. And I do consulting. So my particular focus is customer journeys and process and AI. So that's hopefully that gives you some confidence that I might know what I'm talking about. So why are smart processes important? Well, we think intelligent processes are really relevant because processes are growing everywhere and growing in importance. And in fact, they're spanning companies. We see big talks about the supply chain having problems. We see that right now in the medical and meat industries, but it's going to be including almost everybody, because if you're not in the supply chain, you're in some kind of value chain. The days of thinking that processes start and stop at your doorstep, your organization's doorstep, are waning. So we think it's going to require smarter processes to be able to adapt to the change, to do the proper actions and get the right outcomes. And we think also we need a new set of drivers that are from our constituents. We can't just deal with organizational goals. We have to deal with the customer goals. Now, that's going to cost a little bit more money, but hopefully the savings that we get in hyper automation, you know, will get us to, you know, a steaming economy again, and we can focus on a better experience in dealing with the customer's goals and balancing them with the organizational goals. So what are processes and where do they play in digital? Well, depending on who you are, you're going to look at a different part of this chart. Most people think in this lower left-hand corner, standard and simple and structured processes that are transactionally oriented. But you know what? In reality, that only handles a certain portion of the transactions and business events that you have in your organization. I would say maybe 10 to 20%. The rest is some kind of collaborative capability that collaborates around work skills and around responsibilities, and what I would call long-running process events, which are called CASE, long-running business events. Things like, you know, a jury trial, things like underwriting an insurance policy if it can't be jet underwritten. And then at the upper right-hand corner is where we're headed, where you have IoT and bot collaboration with humans that will be a bit of structured, a bit of case collaboration, and a bit of emergence. So you may see bots that are bidding on portions of work instead of assigning them to certain job roles. So as you move from simple to complex and standard to business differentiating, you're going to see that the processes are going to have to get smarter. So here's some common names for processes. You'll see on the left side: actor, step, action, precedents, process flows, workflows, case collaboration, customer journeys, best practices, straight through processes, and BPM. And you know, that shines off of BPM, but processes still exist. And you know, we're on the right-hand side, we have BusinessOptix view of those processes and its ability to mine and show what's going on, either real time or after the fact. So we're going to see, processes use real alive data to get better, and intelligence applied to that data to get better. The idea of fluidity for improvement is going to be driven by the data, and a lot of it will be emergent data. So let's look at the digital investments that are popular today. Where are people getting traction? Where are they showing money savings? Where are they making progress? And I identified 10 areas that I've seen customers make a lot of traction on. Content capture, first mile kind of work, work collaboration, where you're trying to get together various skill sets and knowledge bases, and including knowledge management. Process automation, where you're trying to get as much of things done automatically without humans, and we're going to see more of that happening, and human assisted processes. And then there's persona-based workplace workbench approaches. So something like a trader's workbench, for the stock market, underwriter workbench, a claims workbench, where a lot of the exceptions are handled, where the anticipation and predictiveness is helpful. Then there are those that are, all about the customer experience, and it's just not customer experience the way you think of it. It's customer experience, the beginning of the customer journey to the end, and it might be 5 companies, it might be 7 companies. People think they're just buying from Amazon. They're not. There's a whole supply chain that's involved, and if it's coming from China, it's a different, kind of customer journey than if it isn't. If they have it in stock in their warehouse, man, it's zippity doo dah, it's fast. Then there's analytics and mining focused, saying, hey, look, I've got all this big and fast data coming at me, and I want to mine this and look for opportunities. There's also AI and edge focus. There are sentinels out on the edge of Industry 4.0 that are looking for things that have happened. So for instance, let's say you can't fulfill on a supply chain. What's the next best thing? Maybe AI can suggest to you how to do that. Maybe AI is, a scout out there looking for things that are about to break. Then there's agile integration focus, which is, we have to integrate faster and more often. We have to integrate cloud with other cloud. Then you have the hybrid cloud integration, and you have to integrate data from different sources, and that has to be agile and dynamic. Then there's the low code fast change focus. It's just, for the managers that want to crank out code and they think code is the measurement of success, low code fits that. But a lot of the low code includes a number of process tools as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And then pre-built business function, the ability to buy bots from a bot farm and leverage them in some kind of common execution environment. Common execution environment's the piece that's missing. It's usually very focused on one vendor or another. So those are the things that are hot. So where is process hot in all this? Well, if you look at the red, that's where process, it's there, but it's not the heavy. If you look at the green, there's a lot of green here. The content capture, process automation, persona, customer journey, and pre-built business function, where you cobble together and orchestrate pieces that are reused. And then in the middle is, the workflow collaboration focus. Some of it's process, some of it's not, some of it's just people working together. Analytics and mining, there's a lot of polyanalytics, multiple analytics, AI and analytics working together, AI and edge focused. They have some processes in that they at least probably kick them off, or they may be involved with a decision-focused process. So you can see process is pretty active in 8 out of the 10, and so we have to pay attention to process. So okay, why are high IQ or SMART processes more effective. Well, let's look. This chart is crucial in understanding where the money is. Where's the money? Show me the money. Well, there's some money. If you look at the bottom of this chart, which is, the RPA focused chart, which you see in kind of the teal color. And then you see the process focused, which is in kind of the purple color. One's coming from the top down, the other's coming from the bottom up. RPA is about infrastructure automation, and there's a lot of tools that are just focused on that part of the triangle, the inverted triangle. And then there's development automation. Let's make automation of the development process. And someday we'll have AI, generating its own programming. I came from that generation when we tried to do that through certain amount of inferencing, through backward and forward chaining. But they meet in the middle. They meet at the business level. The process automation piece, the RPA does steps, and the process takes care of the orchestration of those steps and a lot of other steps. And then there's business process assistance, where the process is getting assisted by more intelligence, like a knowledge bot, like a video assisted approach to helping somebody who doesn't have the skills how to deal with these things. Could be in a training mode, could be in a journeyman mode. But really the super benefits come at the very top of this inverted triangle. It's the idea of dynamic resource automation. Emergence plays a role here, and you see that in a lot of supply chains, B2B, Industry 4.0, and value chains. And frankly, if you want to do a customer journey, you're going to get driven there. And then, of course, processes have all kinds of resources. They have machine resources, they have software resources, they have robots, they have people that are assisted by robots. I mean, someday my wife imagines me having a little earpiece in my ear giving me advice on how to behave myself. And she often wishes for that. So imagine workers that are lower level having a senior worker whisper in their ear to say, this is how you should handle this. And that worker may be, an AI capability or a bot. So this chart is absolutely crucial in understanding where your benefits are and how you have to have the intelligence to maintain them and extend them. So the journey to smarter processes and bots is, kind of an important one, and it goes through 3 steps that we see here in the kind of teal color. You go from actions to recognition, which means you say, hey, something's changing here. We got to do something different. The customer's not happy. Something's emerging here that we have to deal with. Our standard transactions aren't handling it. And then the next step is to do decisions, and the decisions might be to build new actions. The decisions might be to look, more sideways at different contexts. The decisions could be very complex based on the emergence. We saw that in the COVID pandemic. So, we'll start with, on this left side, the intelligence level of the process. We'll move from discrete, simple processes to end-to-end processes to resource-centric, where the resources are bidding on the work, to multiple context processes. And that's what a journey, Industry 4.0, B2B, all of those are multiple contexts with multiple participants and multiple constituents, everybody with different personas. And then the type of work moves from task-oriented, where RPA kind of does a good job and helps, to really complex work that is, stuff that you can't do in a straight-through fashion, that you can't purely automate. You need some knowledge or intelligence, whether that involves a human or an assisted human or a deep learning capability. And then the third type of impact is adaptable. That's the emergent work that I'm talking about. We have more agility in our systems and our processes than we've ever had before, but we need to guide that emergence. Some people would say you have to guide that emergence with data. Some people say it has to be mining. Some people say it has to be mining and intelligence with AI and algorithms. The answer is, yeah, all those things will help. And each of your instances that you have, your organization has to deal with, will decide that. So smart processes can go beyond actions, and orchestrating resources, saying, okay, resource A, you do this, resource B, you do that, resource C, to a much more dynamic capability where it's looking for signals and patterns, looking for that emergence. Is this a strong or a weak? Is it a threat? Is it a win? Is it an opportunity? You can see that the world did not do a really good job in scenario planning for COVID, did they? I mean, we can see it in the fact that we had to shut down our economies. More people died than should have in various countries, not just here in the U.S. And then being able to do decisions, being involved with scenarios, simulate opportunities, having all different kinds of likely scenarios. This was not a black swan. COVID was not a black swan. And we didn't have the right policies and rules practiced and in place. We didn't have the right constraints. We didn't have the right algorithms. So smart processes can, link processes to journey, sense events at the edge. There were events that were happening at the edge. I mean, some people blame the politicians for not recognizing it, but you see that in there, when humans look at things, they're always in the denial stage. Been that way myself with things that have happened in my life. So you would think leaders would be immune to that, but no, they're human. So sensing events at the edge, oriented within context, suggest or make decisions, glue together smart resources, respond with the feedback and emergence at speed. You say, well, if I let the computer respond on its own, it's going to go off track. Well, that's why we put in boundaries and constraints, and suggesting new constraints, suggesting new alternatives, new knowledge sources. I mean, knowledge management the first time around blew up. It's not going to blow up this time because it's not structured. It's in an ontology. And I'm going to give you some examples where knowledge management actually does help. So processes can switch between flow directed and goal directed. They can be hybrid in that they can be fixed processes and dynamic. So you can see that processes are very powerful, and you may not see the real process until you mine what really happened. And I think someday that's the way it's going to be. Mining will look at the process that actually executed. So optimizing resources, you have your knowledge workers, your managers, your regular workers, you have your process components, your APIs, your data, your cognitive analytics, you have robotic type technologies like sensors, controllers, robots, and drones. All of them are going to play a role in what you're doing. So when we're talking digital and we're talking process, we're going to see combinations of technologies that work. And I'm going to get into those combinations for you. I'm not going to have all of them, I'm just going to have the ones that I see that are popular now. But you have to know the ingredients. If you're doing chemistry and you're combining different kinds of atoms into molecules, you got to know what the base properties are of each of these. So look at this list as here's the contributors. We have AI, we have architecture, which by the way, BusinessOptix has some architecture-driven capabilities for helping you with your transformation. BPM, content and collaboration, customer journeys, Internet of Things, low-code process mining, RPA, unified communications, which gets into digital IDs, and simple workflow. They all have different skill levels, learning curves, benefits, time to benefit, cost. Is there a big base of case studies to look at? Are there partners partnering necessary, and are they around? What's the reputation? What's the growth? And, is it early in the maturity? A lot of these, you see the early maturity. Now, I'll update this. I created this in last year, and I'll update it towards the end of this year. So let's talk about the productive pairs. I mean, you want to pick winners, right? But did you notice that BPM or process is right in the middle of a lot of these? Customer journey and process really works, delivers a balance of customer satisfaction and efficiency. BPM and AI enable smart processes to help resources and take actions. BPM and RPA says, hey, let's automate what we can. And then BPM and process mining is a reality-based approach. I mean, you can model a process, but what's happening in reality. And then IoT and AI, those productive pairs I've seen in case study after case study. Let's talk about some of the triplets. And now also you see BPM and workflow. And workflow is, I call it BPM light. That's probably not fair to the workflow vendors, but that's what I call it. You see process involved with process mining and RPA. What a great way to target automation. BPM, IoT, and AI delivers intelligent actions at the edge. What actions should I do once I send something at the edge? Architecture, low code, and RPA delivers incremental transformation of legacy. At a minimum, at a maximum, it gives you a plan for putting in some of the processes that you need to. Workflow, content, and collaboration delivers team outcomes if you have a highly collaborative situation. Unified communication, AI and BPM improves the customer satisfaction. These are known triplets today that work well together. Now, where are they headed? And this is something I did when I was a stringer writer for Aragon Research. Put together what is known as a digital business platform that has bits of all of these coming together. And you're going to see, some of the digital business platforms having most of this or part of this. None of them are going to have it all, but there has to be something. If we look at the outside of the circle around human engagement, on the right, omni-contextual, which says I can understand multiple contexts, which starts off with omni-channel but grows even further. Lower left, productive agility, and on the right, high-speed operation and variable, and that's where we're headed. And if you take a look, process is one of the key pieces of the pie. The other piece is cognition and calculations. The other piece is data and integration, which includes the mining, machines and sensors, and pieces of business applications, which could be bots. They could be RPA bots. They could be code that you've wrapped and leveraged. So we see that these suites are flourishing, and they're generally open. They're not closed. They're not necessarily from one vendor, but they can be. BusinessOptix is a form of a digital business platform. You might see one that's AI decision and learning, one that's analytic and mining, one that's BPM and automation. And that's where they started. It's where they cut their teeth. So we're seeing that they're flourishing, but they're also very open. So how do we keep track of the IQ of our processes? How do we make sure they stay smart once we get them there? Well, I think the biggest and most important context is the customer journey. If you look at this chart kind of works backwards. The upper right is not a good thing, like it is in a magic quadrant, is a bad thing. And I've overlaid it on the health pain scale. If you look at the x-axis, it's loyal to I'm walking away. On the y-axis, it's from no pain to the worst possible pain, a 10. I hope you've never had to come into a hospital with a 10, but there are people that are coming in now. So if you take a look at the worst possible thing an organization could do is be focused on their own goals. Over uber alles, over the customer's goals, over the employee's goals. And then the next worst, moving up the scale to not as bad is siloed transactions. They just kind of work in a silo. You know, that's still severe pain. Then there's process managed transactions, which, you know, it gets a little bit better. Then all of a sudden we get those process managed transactions that are friendly, in a friendly process. And then you move to a customer journey that's at least a journey within the organization. Nothing wrong with considering the journey within your organization, but the real no pain, high loyalty situations are the end-to-end customer journey. That's why I do so much business with Amazon. Do I like the prices? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Do I like their visibility? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm loyal to them because they give me more no pain experiences than other companies that I work with. You know, ask me about my cable company, which I hate. Ask me about my, you know, my TV provider, which, you know, I don't quite hate, but close to it. I mean, as soon as 5G comes through, I'm walking away. I mean, they've abused me enough. Thank you. So the typical tying processes to customer outcomes requires a lot of complexity under the water. It's a lot like an iceberg. There's a lot of stuff going on there. There's CRM going on there. There's a lot of technologies. We got to tie it all together with processes and journeys. Now, I think over time, we're going to see these two things come together, and that's the process journey, the processes as we have them, and the real journey. So if you take a look, if this is a maturity model, business processes need to measure and monitor their tasks. They need to craft better automations. They need to optimize the process outcomes. They need to add customer-friendly features. They need to infuse behaviors, good behaviors, and they need to be able to do in-flight adjustments. But on this left side of the chart, you have to commit to journeys. You have to measure and model the customer viewpoint and getting to their goals, not just your goals. You know, I wrote a blog post on stop the CPA insanity. And that if you're just on the right side of this, you're on the CPA insane side. Ask Boeing about that. The cost jockeys ran that company into the ground. And hopefully it'll come back. I sure hope so. Love the company. So, you know, craft journey on the front ends, retrofit or rewrite critical processes is the journey, and optimize on the customer journey. These two will converge. Those companies that get fast convergence win the game. So I'm going to do a couple of examples because RPA is the hottest hot thing right now, but it's cooling off. If they don't get those bots smarter, it's going to get ice cold. If they just do steps and they don't get involved with, you know, different combinations of technology like AI and mining, they're dead meat. So let's look at the typical content journey, and it's something that people can identify with forms and scanning and that kind of thing. So you really need a content journey that combines RPA, mining bots, and optimization, and works in either a push mode where you have a form and you stuff it into a process, or a pull mode where you have a process that decides which content it needs, and part of that content is going to be knowledge. So you can sense and decide. Right now, I'd say we're pretty good at flowing from left to right, down at the bottom. So you have some agents that are scanning stuff in, they're picking data out of it, maybe even making decisions about the forms, and then they go into a push solution towards acting. But as we get more mature, we're going to see, you know, moving up this chart and to the right. So here's an example of adding natural language process to mine and leverage intelligent resources. So this is a company that does infrastructure projects. And in infrastructure projects, there are pumps everywhere. you're either pumping water or sewage or air or whatever. So maintaining pumps is a crucial skill set. A lot of the older workers, you know, they're going away, so the new guys are there. So they decided to apply NLP to their manuals, and they were able to create content, smart content that has knowledge in it, so they could train the new guys, gals, about these pumps and infrastructure, and even give them videos that show how to fix these things. So you can see that not only can you mine data for processes, you can mine content and knowledge leveraging NLP. This is a resource that's in production. This company is expanding it to more infrastructure capabilities. That, and this is the only one they would leave out as a public teaser. So this is a Midwest infrastructure company. Here's another one where they use scanners to scan different buildings. So, you know, active shooter or active emergencies are difficult. So, and not everybody has a, you know, a digital floor plan. So what this does is, through scanning floor plans with a little mobile scanner that goes on the back of somebody, kind of like that Google Maps scanner that you see on top of cars spinning around, looking at all the streets and trying to keep the Google Maps up to date. This does that inside of buildings. And they wanted to do it for all hospitals, all schools, all soft targets, particularly for shooters and or bombs or whatever weapons they're using against humanity. And they said it was going to take them 25 years. So they used this scanning capability into logical digital plans that they could give to emergency responders on some kind of tablet. So now you're using smart content, scanned content, and video to help them. Here's another one that has safety, but it's more cost savings. This is a mining company. They have a lot of equipment that has teeth on them, and they take material and run it through grinders. They run it through sorters, and all these things. If you get a loose tooth that's, you know, in the dirt or in whatever material that they're dealing with, it could get crushed. It could get spit out of the equipment and kill people. And in fact, they had examples of it. So what they do is they have video equipment watching all equipment that have teeth, and they're able to use a two-stage approach to addressing, you know, the row of teeth and what kind of equipment it is and where the payloads are going to go, and they can anticipate ahead of time where this is, and it's saving them time and money and safety. So again, these are really smart processes, and it's more than RPA, but RPA works well, and it can be worked with content too. So taking over repetitive, tedious tasks, performing data entry, you know, doing what I call swivel chair integration, assisting with email and content management capabilities, transform data, find data, leverage it, store it properly, maybe in a, you know, in some kind of graph database, some kind of ontology for further use, prepare transactions, search content, link with chatbots and digital assistants with that knowledge. All of that is helpful, particularly if you have, you know, agents that are going off of, you know, these recipes. I mean, every time you call into a company, they expect you to fall into, you know, whatever they want. First of all, they started with the phone selection, press 1 to do this, 3 to do this, and you want to do a 1, 3, and a 5, you know, and they don't do that very well. So in order to do a good job, you have to mine the content, you have to mine the journeys, you have to mine the processes in order to keep that digital IQ high. Here you have an example of BusinessOptix and one of their way of viewing the mining process. But the mining intelligence provides process improvements, helps you find them, suggests goal changes, suggests constraint changes, optimizes the use of resources, deliver outcomes faster, find bottlenecks. Mining is absolutely crucial, but using mining alone and data alone is a mistake. You have to combine it with other things. So this is somewhat the end of my prepared speech, but I have to have advertisement for me. I've got a couple of books out there and I'm working on a third. The first one, if you want to read more, dig deeper about process, there's this thing called BPM, The Next Wave, talks about agent technologies, has some real world examples where organizations are dynamically delivering agents from other companies. So let's say the wires go down in Michigan. You can borrow cars and crews and trucks and whatever from somebody else and cobble it together and have the agents figure it out. The other one that's on the right that's done is digital transformation. It's basically say you're going to either innovate or die slowly. It's happening. I mean, we see companies that aren't changing dying. We're going to see more of that. And so, COVID is killing things as well, but those that can't recover fast are going to die as well. And then there's a third I'm working on, which is developing a customer excellence program, which I'm hoping will be out this summer.
Excellent, Jim. Thank you for your time. If anyone has any questions, please just contact BusinessOptix and we'll be sure to connect you with Jim. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.